And now I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webcast, How to Modernize Law Firm AR Departments. And before we do that, I would love to thank our sponsor today, HeadNote. HeadNote is the industry leader for compliant ePayments and AR management for innovative law firms. Thank you, HeadNote. Today's webcast will be presented by Sarah Schaaf. Sarah is an attorney with payments and law firm operations expertise. Sarah was a litigator at firms in San Francisco prior to taking an in-house role at Google's legal department. She left Google in 2014 to become an entrepreneur and is currently the founder and CEO of HeadNote, the fastest-growing e-payments company in the legal industry. She is an active member of several entrepreneurial and fintech groups in Silicon Valley, including NFX Guild and Commerce Innovated, and is also a regular podcast guest and legal conference speaker. And without further ado, Sarah, the floor is yours. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Regina. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. As Regina said, if at any time during the webcast there's any issues with audio or with the presentation, please let us know and we'll take care of it right away. Otherwise, we're excited to spend a little bit of time with you today and talk about AR management for law firms and different ways that you can innovate some of your current processes to see a big difference in your firm's bottom line. HeadNote is proud to be an ALA partner both at a local and national level. Many of you might have met me or seen me at the annual conference in Dallas, which was just a fantastic couple of days. So if I was able to meet you there, thank you for joining us. If not, I hope to meet you at a future ALA event, and you can always feel free to reach out to me at any time before or after this webcast for any information on anything we discuss. So with that in mind, let's jump right in to how to modernize law firm AR departments. First, a little background on myself. As Regina introduced, I am an attorney myself, and I am the founder and CEO of HeadNote. My experience with the legal industry has been going on for a long time, pretty much my entire life. I grew up working at the law firms that my family owned, multiple law firms, mostly mid-market, mid-sized firms. I remember that despite all of the different improvements that we would make as a firm, and it didn't matter what size the firm or what practice area, the part that always gave us the biggest issue was AR management and cash flow. Everybody at the firm pretty universally hated the AR meetings. Cash flow was always a big concern for the growth of the firm. And in fact, many months we would have to borrow against future receivables to make payroll despite being incredibly busy with work. And that was because we, at that point, were doing insurance defense work and we're on about a 150-day DSO or payment schedule. That is on the very far end of the spectrum, but in general, it's taking law firms a long time to get paid, and that cash flow issue can be stifling. So I have dedicated my career to making this part of a law firm better. I truly believe that better legal operations leads to more efficiency industry-wide, which results in better legal services for society at large. So we really do have a social mission at HeadNote, and this is really something that my team and I are passionate about. So let's get to why you're here today, to learn about how to innovate parts of your AR management and your post-invoicing process. Now, let's go ahead and get started by talking about the current state of law firm operations today. There's many different parts of a firm that you need to think about when you're looking at different software decisions or how everything's going to work together to make it really efficient. There's a marketing, and many of you may be using marketing automation tools. This is a new area for the legal industry. Client intake and CRM, or client relationship manager, conflict checks, formal engagement process, actually opening the client and matter file. All of this is taking place prior to actually doing any work, of course, onboarding the client, performing the actual legal work, which obviously needs to be done extremely well. And then you get into the logistics of tracking time, entering the billing process, dealing with the pre-bill process, which is something that most law firms also really dislike. The invoice is finally created and it's sent out. Almost always, this invoice is being sent out as a PDF or a paper copy to the clients, no matter how it was prepared. And then the work is done, right? And we celebrate office style. Hopefully everybody loves this show as much as I do because I find it hysterical. But wait, just kidding. As soon as the invoice sent out is when the actual real work begins. The work doesn't end until the money is in the bank. So after you do all the work to get the invoice out, now we have to deal with getting that invoice paid. The invoice is sent to the client, generally via email. Then we get into what we call the waiting game, and it's really a black box. You have no insight into whether the client has actually received the invoice, if they've opened it, if they have any questions about it. Unless they push back on anything on the invoice itself, you don't have any real communication during this period. You're manually tracking the status of all outstanding invoices, usually via spreadsheet. You're normally going to have monthly, perhaps bi-monthly AR or accounts receivable meetings where billable and non-billable staff will sit around with a spreadsheet and track exactly where is every single client in this payment and collection funnel, what has been done to try to collect and follow up. This is going to involve pretty much many staff members, both billable and non-billable. Collection efforts, whether your firm is doing them in any consistent way or not, are generally awkward, and people don't know who should be doing the collections. When do they take place? At what kind of cadence? What is the tone of any messaging? Are we able to offer this particular client a payment plan? If so, what are those terms? And how do we track the actual collection process? Many times, this extremely long payment time and all of these steps in between invoice and payment will lead to needing to provide a discount. Sometimes this is in reaction to the client pushing back. Other times it's proactive just to try to get some kind of money in the door. And then hopefully you'll receive a payment. Probably not going to be 100% of what you charged or what you billed, but it's going to be something. Now, many, many times we also have firms, and this happened to me when I was working at law firms, realize when they go to close out a file for a client 2 or 5 years later after the last work was performed that they never actually received payment on the last invoice. Again, a real problem. There's no safety net in place to understand if we actually got paid for that work we performed. All of that long list of things on that previous slide, did we actually get money in the bank? So this is really a movement that we've seen taking place in the legal industry the past couple of years, and it's all because our priorities are really shifting. We need to understand how to operate our firm like a business. And so what we have found is that increasing firm revenue is the highest priority. 84% of firms say that increasing their revenue is the highest priority. 80% of firms are saying that improving the efficiency of their law firm operations is a close second. And to no surprise, these two are so related. The more efficient your firm can be, the more revenue and profit-generating activities your firm can be doing. At the end of the day, the number one metric for success for law firms is the bottom line, right? The amount of money they're bringing in, not just billings, but actual collections. So this kind of factors into why law firms need to be thinking about this. We have seen that across the industry, we are collecting 86 cents on the dollar on average for every dollar billed. You need to remember, as we all do, billings don't equal collections. I hear from firms all the time something along the lines of, billings are up this year, but collections are down. We have 20% increase in billings, yet collections are still down 15% over last year. Well, that's because it doesn't matter how much we think about how to get the clients, work for the clients, and create the invoice and the time and everything on those, those very finite line items and everything that goes into getting that invoice out the door does not automatically result in payment. So it's time to start giving a little bit more attention to the payment and collection side, not just the billings. Now, all of this is resulting in an average payment cycle of 60 to 94 days for most firms from when the work was performed. This is the longest of any service industry in the U.S. And like I said, many firms who do different types of work or different types of clients might be closer to 120 or 150 days. This is normal, but this is something that we're seeing change as an industry, and that's part of what I'm really passionate about. How do I make and what can I do in my part to help this industry work more efficiently? Because these are unacceptable stats for any really highly functional industry, and I think that our industry deserves better. So this is really something that I've become part of this movement, which I call the business of law. This is our industry changing as we are watching before our very eyes. In the past couple of years, I've seen more innovation in the legal operations space than I've seen in the previous 20. We are moving from a handshake business to looking at our firm more like an actual business. There are certain statistics that I love to talk about, and feel free to email me about them if you ever want any additional information. But there's statistics and acronyms like CAC and LTV that are used quite freely in other industries, yet we in the legal industry have never really thought about them, and many of us, most of us, don't know what they mean. So let me explain briefly, but again, something I'm happy to talk about offline. CAC is customer acquisition costs. For us, those are clients. How much does it cost for us to acquire a new client? LTV is lifetime value. What am I making out of this client over the lifetime of my work with them? So in CAC and in most other businesses, we're constantly looking at something that's called an LTV to CAC ratio, meaning how much am I getting out of this customer versus how much I paid for them? Do the unit economics make sense? The LTV to CAC in a highly functional business should be 3 to 1. That means whatever you paid to get that client, whatever it costs to go to that conference or whatever it costs to do that online marketing or whatever it is that you're paying to get that client, you need to be making 3 times that over the lifetime of that client in order for it to be a functional business. Most firms don't actually have a handle on what they're spending to get clients, especially if you filter that by different clients and geographies or practice areas, let alone what they actually are making out of that client and if the unit economics make sense. So this is something that using a tool like HeadNote or something that helps you manage AR and get more data analytics and reporting is going to help you understand things like your LTV to CAC ratio. Similarly, and in line with this business of law, is information related to client payment efficiency scores. Do we actually know if this client is a good client for us? We think they are, right? We get a lot of billings from them. Are they actually paying us in a way that makes sense? Do they push back on every invoice so it turns out we're actually only making 72 cents on the dollar from this client, whereas this other client or other clients in a practice area we have overlooked, we actually make 92 cents on the dollar. These are the kind of things that we need to start understanding. Are there clients, are we going after the right kind of clients? How does that relate to their payment efficiency, not just billing efficiency? Things like client NPS score. Now, NPS score stands for Net Promoter Score. Many of us have not heard of that, so don't feel badly if you don't. But Net Promoter Score is something that we've all participated in as consumers. Anytime you've been online and you've seen a survey pop up that says, how likely are you to recommend this site to a friend, 1 through 10, that is that company gauging your NPS score as their customer. What this means and why it's so important to be looking at your NPS score is because it's directly related to how likely a client is to refer you to somebody else. Now, in legal, that's extremely important because the number one way that we get clients is via client referrals. So the happier that we can make a client, the more business we're going to get out of that client, not just from their own portfolio, but perhaps from their network. Again, this directly relates to that LTV to CAC. If I'm paying a certain amount for a client, I want to keep them happy so I can get as much business out of them as possible so that I get more LTV. So again, gauging your client's NPS score and how that is tied to the actual transaction, to the time of purchase, to that payment, verified purchase information, that is something you can be gauging at the time of a completed purchase. How happy were you with the level of service that you received? Something as simple as sending net terms on your invoices. This is the business of law. This says to the client, there is a preferred time schedule for which we get paid. It is within 15 days or 30 days. It also gives you the ability, if you'd like, to say it has passed, the net terms on your invoices passed. Here's the next step. Some firms also have started to attach interest to overdue invoices. That's a firm decision that is really up to you, but the fact is setting the precedent of we have you expect work from us on a certain time period, a certain time schedule. We similarly expect payment in an efficient way as well because we are a business. That is something that many firms are becoming more comfortable with. Setting up uniform payment procedures, as in client, here's the ways that you can pay, and you can actually do that without human intervention. You can click here. You can do a credit card charge. or we can run it over the phone for you. But there's many different ways that we accept payment, including credit card, e-check, paper check, wire transfer. It's up to the firm as to what they want to make part of their procedures and what they accept, but make that known and make sure that your firm knows that we have payment procedures in place. First is that we include this payment link. Second is that we will allow client to pay over the phone. Third is that we will get paid via a paper check. But whatever it is, having that set up says to your firm members, we have a business here and this is how we like to do business. And very important, and something most firms are overlooking, is consistent firm-wide collection policies. If your firm is in this bucket, don't feel bad. Most firms are. It is a little shocking to go into a law firm of at least 100 attorneys and find out that they don't have any uniform collection procedure in place. They're really coming together at monthly or bi-monthly AR meetings and saying, hey, attorney, partner, have you followed up with these clients that are in the red? These are the ones that are 30 days, 60 days, 90 days overdue. Have you called them? What did you say? Should we call again? Should we have somebody else on the team call? This, again, is something that we need to get better at as an industry and as a business. Having a collection procedure in place that says, we give these net terms. At that point, we are going to reach out, or we are going to have a system that does our AR management, a system like HeadNote that will reach out via email automatically on behalf of your firm. That's going to start alerting the client that this bill is now overdue, and here's an easy way to pay. Do we need to offer a payment plan? Are there things that we can do as a consistent firm-wide rule related to our collections that will result in more consistent policies and give us better results? So that's really what the business of law is about, which we are going to dive into a little deeper. So now that we've kind of gotten this far, what is AR automation, which I've talked about a few times, or AR management for law firms? It's really closing the gap between the invoice and payment part of your firm's process. Right now, that invoice goes out and then you sit and wait. There is a better way to manage the part of your process that takes place in between invoice received and payment received, and to shorten that period. And there's a way to do it that's tracked and automated so that your firm can be more efficient. This isn't replacing a billing department. This is a tool for a billing department to use to do their jobs better. This includes things like embedded payments, so that payments can happen automatically, allowing clients to set up payment plans automatically so that you actually don't need to do that. Automating firm-wide collection efforts so that the system is going to be automatically following up, and it's going to create a safety net. Giving you usable data on a firm-wide or billing department-wide dashboard, so everybody in the entire department can see exactly how many clients have paid in the time that they were supposed to, how many are overdue, what is our cash flow looking like for next month, usable data. This will create a source of truth for your firm. No more manually tracking on spreadsheets. No more wondering if this math was done correctly. It creates a source of truth that everybody in the firm knows exactly where the firm stands with different clients, and gives you really exciting and interesting data about individual clients, practice areas, and parts of your firm. At the end of the day, AR automation and management software is creating a safety net so that you know you will never go to close a client file again and realize that you never received payment. And we will stop having stale and aging AR issues because we'll have a handle on it and be able to attack it earlier. So when I think about this part of a firm, the AR department, it really, to me, is the most important part of your firm's process, and generally the most overlooked part as well. So as we're sitting and completing this webcast, I want everybody to be thinking about how important it is to innovate where it matters most, and if you can do so, is there a way to do so that will require the least amount of change on behalf of the firm, the least amount of investment and risk on your firm's behalf, and the least amount of internal resistance. If there is a way that you can do this, and that would be using an AR software that requires no upfront risk and commitment so you can really see if it makes a difference, then this will give you a huge ROI. If your firm is like others, then it needs to check the big boxes to understand if solution is right for them. First is going to be, and we'll go through these in depth, is it compliant? Is this going to be a tool that will be compliant with all of the rules that we need to comply with as a law firm? How much change do we need to do to get this thing set up? Is this going to require us pulling out another piece of software, another process? Is this going to be something that takes months or weeks or requires some kind of engineering work? And it should not, essentially, because I know how hard it is for law firms of any size to make any kind of change and how resistant firms are to that kind of change. How much does it cost, right? Is this going to be an affordable solution for my firm? And for that cost I'm paying, what benefits am I going to see, right? Does the benefit to cost analysis make sense? So that's what we should be thinking about as we continue to go a little bit more in depth into AR automation and management and some of the innovations that you can get by choosing an AR management software. The first thing that is a game changer for most firms is simply having the ability to have a modernized AR dashboard for the entire department. So this is going to be similar to what you're seeing on the right-hand side of your screen, a dashboard that's automatically going to show you and tell you in real time the status of all outstanding invoices or payment requests. It's going to tell you, as you can see on the screen under activity, whether the client has actually viewed, if they've clicked and viewed your invoice, if they've revisited it, if they've set up a payment plan, if they've submitted a payment. The system is going to be tracking that and automatically populating that in real time on behalf of the firm. This is going to give very, very valuable information about client activity, as we've discussed, which right now we have none of that information available to us with our current process of send an invoice and wait. But it's also going to give you some really interesting information about payment and collections. So once you use a tool like HeadNote and to manage your AR, you're going to start getting information around average payment time, the amount of time specific clients or firm-wide or in certain practice areas take to pay an invoice. The average payment size, what size, payments are we actually seeing? If that actually relates, what that collection rate is to the size of the invoice that was sent out. What's the breakdown of firm clients that are in the red or the green, right, that are past due or that have paid in full? What about those in the yellow that are in some kind of payment plans and we haven't collected in full, but we have collected? Having that visualized is extremely valuable. What's the breakdown of payment type? Are we collecting payments via e-check, via credit card, via manually running credit cards or clients clicking on a link, via paper check, et cetera, giving you that information on your dashboard? What is the average NPS score that our firm has from our clients? Is there actually at a client level, what are we seeing from specific clients? What's our projected income based on scheduled payments? What do we let our cash flow for next month look like? And how can I filter to get more information about all of these stats by date range, by client, or by other filters that your firm sets up? So having a dashboard and being able to automatically see the state and status of every client and every outstanding or received payment makes the access to data and reporting and information extremely easy. Again, this is time that now your firm members can be freed up to be doing other profit-generating activities. There's going to be less room for error. So going through some of the benefits of having a modern dashboard that's set up and automated for your firm as your source of truth. You have enhanced visibility and control in that invoice to payment process outside, higher than any other current method that you're using. The visibility into the client activity is something that most firms see as a complete game changer. Just being able to know if the client has actually, received and is clicking on that invoice gives you at least the ability to know that they're taking some kind of action. That might be the time to have the system reach out to offer a payment plan or set it up so it automatically does so. So this is going to reduce that black box, totally eliminate the need for manual tracking, which can help reduce AR meetings or at least make them more efficient. Creating this AR source of truth is going to free up so much time and help the firm be more efficient. And obviously, as I've said many times, because I think it's really important, less room for error. AR safety net. We're all human after all, so there must be a way that we can actually trust software to help do something that's causing a lot of errors to take place many times. So as we continue down some of the different features and what does it mean, what are some ways that you can innovate in how you're managing your AR, dashboard is very important and, again, a game changer for the post-invoicing process. But the next thing that I find to be the thing that makes the biggest difference for law firms is the ability to have embedded payments and to add embedded payments into their current process. So that part's really important. I'm going to say it again. The ability to add embedded payments into their current process. So this means that no matter how you create that invoice, there's probably a myriad of tools your firm is using. We kind of joke, or I like to call it Frankenstein systems. You probably have some things that are leftover legacy systems you just can't get away from. Some might even still be on-premise. There may be some cloud-based solutions or some pieces of cloud-based solutions that you've started using and you've gotten those tools to talk to each other in some way. And you might be combining both of those things or one of those things with things like Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. In either case, being able to add something modern with a embedded payment, giving your clients a modern way to pay without making any internal changes to how you're creating that invoice or how you're sending that invoice out is really important to most law firms. So with HeadNote's embedded payments, you have the ability to get paid and create payment links in multiple ways. All of these allow you to keep all of your processes up until when that invoice is sent out. You don't have to change any of those things. This includes your ability to create a payment link via multiple different ways, which I'm happy to explain more in depth for anybody interested. But a custom link, which gives you a link for a specific client for a specific amount that you can easily add into that invoice itself, or you can send to the client along with the invoice. A firm's one link, which allows people to pay online. Any client can pay online whatever amount they want. That's how you would set up a payment page or put it in the signature lines of people who are sending out the bills so that there's always an easy way to pay. Allows your firm to run manual charges and to actually accept credit card charges if the client wants to pay in office or over the phone. A solution that offers a full feature of embedded payments is also going to include an eCheck or ACH payment option, but it's very important to note that not all eCheck is created equal. eCheck is something that many companies will try to just do a standard ACH process and call it eCheck. That is not eCheck. Instant eCheck is something that HeadNote pioneered and built from scratch, and it essentially gives your clients the ability to pay automatically instantly from their bank account without needing to set up a wire transfer, without needing to create a HeadNote account, without needing to deal with any kind of micro deposits or account verification or waiting periods. If you've ever signed up for a PayPal account or a Bill.com account, it will deposit a few cents into your bank account, and you have to go a few days after you sign up and report back to PayPal the amounts of those small deposits. That's so that you're proving that you have access to that bank account. That is creating a lot of friction. It requires your client to wait days in between the desire to pay the invoice and actually paying it. Not with HeadNote's Instant eCheck. That's something they can do automatically. 10 seconds or less, they can pay directly from their bank account. When you are accepting these manual these embedded payments, things like payment links, running a manual charge, the ability to set up recurring payments or installment payments, it is very important that you can accept these to trust and operating accounts, which we'll get into those compliance issues in a moment, but a reason why you shouldn't be using something like a PayPal. But in either case, the ability to create a payment link that you can then send with the invoice without changing any of your current processes is very important to most law firms. And once you are able to actually get that payment out and the client does make a payment, then you're going to want a system that's automatically going to be sending auto receipts to the clients. No more needing to create a receipt, a makeshift receipt on a Word document that then gets emailed to the client. And it can automatically notify different firm members of any client or payment activity. So if you want to set it up so that the person who runs the billing department gets a notification anytime a payment is received, but you also want the managing partner to receive those notifications. Or you want the attorney, the partner in charge of the specific client to know anytime there's any payment activity or payments received. You can set it up so that notifications are sent to specific firm members when specific activity takes place. So again, the amount of time it saves to have a client click on a link, submit a payment on their own, have the receipt sent to them automatically, and then notifications that go out to different firm members and an automatic population on your firm's dashboard that that payment was received and the facts that go along with it, that is something that can change a lot of the manual processes that you're currently doing. So that is why embedded payments are so important. Now, some of the benefits that you're going to get by adding an embedded payment to your workflow. 70% faster payments. That is a huge difference. So for instance, the average DSO, as we talked about, days sales outstanding, AKA, the amount of time between when the work was performed and when the invoice is paid is currently 94 days in the legal industry, some more, some less. The average payment time that we see on HeadNote, the amount of time it takes from when an invoice is sent until the payment is received is 4 days. That means that 4 days that it takes for the client to pay. Funds are deposited same day for e-check or within 2 business days for credit cards. So I'm not talking about the amount of time it takes for the funds to hit your account. I'm saying it takes 4 days for your client to actually complete that invoice payment. That is a huge difference with your firm's cash flow if you are looking at your cash flow and looking at your books. So faster payments is the first benefit that you'll experience by offering an embedded payment system. The next is better collection rates. There is data that is not just, this is not something that's HeadNote specific. It's not industry-wide even. It's just in general. The faster that clients pay, the faster that a customer pays, the more that you're likely to connect on that payment. And that is because that you automatically are going to have a client who remembers the value of the services performed and pushes back less often on that invoice. So I want you to think about something I have listed down on the screen midway down, client amnesia. You are all probably clients of legal services at one point or of some kind of services where you've been invoiced. When you get that service performed, you feel very satisfied. It was generally good work. The firm did a good job. They did it on a fast schedule. You're satisfied. And then you get the bill 30 days later, perhaps. Sometimes it's even more. And by then, you remember the work, but you don't remember with as much clarity how satisfied you were. Then there's no easy way to pay. They want to check or you need to do a wire transfer. So that goes into a to-do list or it goes into an inbox. You finally get around, whenever it comes time, the next month, perhaps it's longer depending on the client, and it's time to pay that bill. Now you go back and look at the bill and you don't remember that satisfied feeling that you had. You actually are starting to feel some sticker shock. You're now looking at that invoice and every line item and picking it apart. Wasn't this actually paralegal work? Why was an attorney working on it? This doesn't seem like something that should take 30 minutes. This seems like it should only take about 18 minutes. All of a sudden, you've got a client that's redlining your invoice, and worse than that, worse than the fact that they're going to push back for a discount, which at that point is for sure going to happen. They, in their mind, have just reduced the value of your services. They have just reduced the satisfaction level that they had. And as we talked about earlier, that satisfaction level directly plays into how likely they are to come back with their own work when they need it, but also to refer you to other clients when someone in their network needs work that you perform. So client amnesia is actually a very dangerous thing for a law firm. And trust me, I've experienced it as a lawyer and as a firm member, and I've also experienced it as a client, and it is a real thing. The faster that they pay, the more likely they are to feel satisfied and pay more. So faster payment equals better collection, and the way to get paid faster and collect more is to make it as easy as possible to pay. So by giving the client more payment options, that is exactly what you do, and you reduce discounts or reductions. Now, even better, it's going to have increased processing efficiency for your firm internally. The things that we just talked about on the prior screen, right, where you are going to have the client submit a payment, get a receipt, notify the appropriate firm members, and populate your AR dashboard, your source of truth. That is all work that you are doing manually today. So that increased processing efficiency is incredibly important. And then at the last two at the bottom, this is potentially the last touch point you have with your client. Like we said, you'll have a better referral and return rate if they're really happy with that payment experience and if they feel like that was a good experience for them. That leads to higher client satisfaction and higher client NPS scores. So it might sound like a little bit funny to think about making it easier for the client to pay as something that makes them more satisfied, but I want you to think about the last time you were forced to go find or pull out a checkbook or go and initiate a wire transfer. That is not a joyful experience. So whatever we can do to make it easy or as least painful as possible, we should be doing, and we will see the results. So now that we're talking about payments, and how important it is to have an AR source of truth, right? That's your dashboard that does the work for you. And to have an easy way to embed payments so that you see those benefits, we need to talk about something really important, which is compliance. So compliance is something we're always all thinking about. That's our job, right? You have to be getting paid in a way that is 100% compliant with all 50 safeguards. And that is something that is extremely important, and as well as compliance with the ABA rules, the Model Rules of Professional Conduct, and IOLTA, Interest on Lawyers' Trust Accounts. If you are using a payment tool or considering using a payment tool that does not comply with the industry compliance rules that we have, please stop. If you aren't aware, which I'm sure you are, if you are not following the rules for your state bar, ABA, and IOLTA for how you are accepting online payments, the punishment or the risk you're running your firm is potential disbarment. It is a big deal. This is how we are guarding our client property, right? That money that we're taking, transferring from the client to our firm, that's client property. So it's extremely important that we treat that compliantly and do exactly what we are supposed to. That means that we have to separate trust and operating funds as much as we can at all times if possible. At HeadNote, for instance, we segregate and separate those trust and operating account funds even during the online transmission process. That means that when your client clicks pay, you are going to have those trust and operating account funds segregated all the way until they are deposited into the correct account. So these funds are never commingled, which is very important. No fees are ever taken from trust funds. Those are deposited in full into the firm's trust account as designated. There's never any chargeback access given to those trust funds, never any transaction fees taken out of those trust funds, no third-party access of any kind. Those types of access, any chargeback access or any fees, are taken out of your firm's operating account. And that, again, is super important. PayPal, Stripe, Square, Braintree, Bill.com, none of these platforms are set up to handle trust account transactions. In fact, the terms of service for these payment platforms actually prohibits lawyers' trust accounts. That says lawyers' trust accounts prohibited from transacting. That's because of these rules. These payment companies don't want to deal with the rules, and you shouldn't be taking the risk. So please make sure you don't use one of those systems. If you're thinking of using one of those systems just for operating account transactions, that means you'll need to be maintaining dual systems. One online payment system for operating account, one offline payment system for trust account deposits. Don't do it. Keeping a dual system is not a way to have a more efficient AR department or better AR management. Use a tool like HeadNote that is going to be compliant for all of those different types of rules and for all accounts, and it's going to be price competitive and in most cases a better price than those tools. Similarly, it's very important on the compliance side that we think about PCI compliance. For those of you that don't know what PCI compliance is, it is the way that your firm is storing and accepting online payment, and it has to be compliant with the national rules in order for your firm to be doing it properly. Now, the number one thing I see firms do that is not compliant is to be writing down client credit card information and storing it in a file. That is actually anti-PCI compliance. You are breaking PCI compliance if you do that. The other thing I see is firms writing down, typing in a credit card number into a client profile. So however you're storing your client information, you're actually adding a credit card number maybe in the note section. Again, This is the exact thing that PCI compliance was set out to stop. So if you are doing that, it's something you're going to want to change as soon as possible. I know that this is something that is becoming a bigger issue for some firms. There are state agencies looking into whether businesses that have high transaction rates are PCI compliant. So you're going to want to try to get any of that fixed as soon as you can. The way that you do that is to use a PCI compliant tool, again, like HeadNote, that is going to tokenize your card data and encrypt the PII data. So tokenized card data means that you or the client are going to enter that credit card information in once, and then a token is going to be stored in a PCI compliant cloud, not anywhere on your system. And that's going to allow you to run that payment for the client numerous times, or allow the client to pay without entering their information over and over. Encrypted PII data is the personal information about your client, right? That billing address, their name, the information that goes along with creating a successful credit card transaction. That information needs to be tokenized and encrypted. If you choose the right provider, this is something that you can become PCI compliant within a matter of minutes. But please note that when it comes to compliance, as law firms, we don't mess around, and it's important to think about compliance from the trust accounting point of view, but also from the PCI point of view. And as we've kind of, talked through the features and benefits, the benefits of using a compliant tool, a compliant payment and AR management tool, again, is that there's less room for error. You reduce your liability, you reduce your risk for doing any kind of errors or having, again, any kind of human error, and you streamline your operations for accepting payments. Not only do you offload that, that to somebody else, that PCI compliance, but you now have a way that's extremely streamlined. Instead of needing to have somebody, for instance, go to the client file, find the credit card information, and key in that transaction, which some of you might be doing, and again, not PCI compliant, and also not the best way to get the best transaction rates. But in either case, if that's what you're currently doing, and then you need to let the client know that the transaction was successful, and then you need to send a receipt, doing a tokenized card data and encrypted PII system that allows a client to submit a payment in a way that's compliant with all of your rules, that leads to streamlined operations. That is exactly how you manage and innovate your AR department, right? The part between invoice and payment, in a way that makes a huge difference. So please offload that risk and become more efficient. Now, this is the next feature is one that honestly is one of my absolute favorites. It's something that we created at HeadNote based on our own pain as attorneys and law firm administrators and just law firm operation enthusiasts. This is a way for your firm to set up consistent collection procedures that nobody hates. This is not HeadNote making phone calls to your clients to tell them to pay, so please know that. This is a way that you can set up a very personalized way to do email collections for your firm using a system. For instance, you can say at a firm-wide level, or for a particular client, or for a particular invoice, I want to set up automated reminders. I want reminders to go out once a week or once a month. It's up to you to choose the cadence. I want the message that the reminder says to be this. You can have it escalate so that it goes from very friendly to maybe being more aggressive. You can decide if you just want it to be a very kind of vanilla, friendly reminder. It's really up to your firm, but it is something that will automatically get sent and remind the client. You also get to choose who it comes from. Some firms, and I've worked at a variety of firms and corporations, but some want the reminder, the collection reminder, to come from the partner on that file. So it will actually say Sarah at, lawfirm.com, and it will be from Sarah. Hey, Bill, wanted to see if we could get payment on this due. We're so grateful for your business, et cetera, et cetera. Some want it to come from the attorney that worked on that file. You can do that. It can come from Joe at the associate. Some want it to come from, somebody's administrative assistant or the billing department itself or the managing partner, the CRO. It really is up to your firm if you want it to come from billing at lawfirm.com, or if you want it to come from managing partner at, whatever you want. You get to control and personalize these reminders so it actually will feel like a personal note from whoever it's coming from, but it's actually something that you set up ahead of time and the system then does automatically on your behalf. So, and you also can control how long the reminders will continue. You can have them continue forever if you would like. You can have them stop after a month or 3 months. It will give your client the option, if you allow it to set up a payment plan, to set up an installment payment plan that can either happen at the client's, the client has to do it monthly or on whatever installment they decide, or you can set up a recurring payment plan so that it will actually do it automatically until that's paid in full. And we know sometimes there's clients who just don't want to pay. No amount of AR automation is going to help if client doesn't want to pay. But the fact is most clients do want to pay. They like your work. They like you. They want to pay. They want either an easier way to pay because they have the funds and they want to get it off their desk, off their to-do list, or they want to work out a more flexible way to pay because they maybe don't have access to all the funds that they need, but they do appreciate your work and they are a good and functional client. Either way, automated collections and automating those efforts so that you can actually have a handle on what is our firm-wide consistent, collection policy. How do we offer certain options to clients? It's incredibly important and something that you can do in a really cool way with HeadNote. So benefits, less manual work for the billable and non-billable for members. Most important, less awkward contact with clients. Nobody, attorney or staff alike, likes to have that conversation about, hey, you're overdue. And as I've talked about numerous times, that AR safety net. Never close a file again that's missing that final payment. And you'll see higher collection rates, faster payment, and increased client satisfaction. This is because most clients do want to pay. They forgot. They don't have a way to do so. This is going to remind them and give them an easy way. So again, game changer for those firms who are dealing with an inconsistent collection effort and really feeling the pain of that. The last thing that we're going to talk about as far as an innovation in AR management is the ability and access to data and reporting. So on your AR dashboard with all that real-time activity, there's also historic firm-wide AR statistics. You're going to have graphs and different things on your dashboard that actually will show you visually the status of everything and how your firm's data stacks up. It's going to be something you can toggle between this week, last month, but access to that data is how you get the information you need to make better decisions. Those things like CAC to LTV, understanding actually what are we collecting from this particular client or type of client and comparing that to marketing costs. You first need the ability to actually get your hands on the data in an easy way. So having in-depth reporting regarding not just individual transactions, which is important, but actual individual clients, time periods, et cetera, that is really powerful. But in order to have the benefit of being able to take this cool data and use it, you need to be able to get to it. So you need to have a tool in your AR management that's going to just give you that information. Again, this is something like the data and analytics that you get from HeadNote and the reporting functionality, very, very, very exciting. We're constantly making improvements. Up next for us is segmented data based on practice area and geography. If you are a firm that has multiple offices and want to understand what are we seeing across different parts of the country, where should we double down on our marketing efforts, this would be super helpful. And the NPS data. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to be able to actually gauge your client's NPS score if you want, and then you'll be able to see not just firm-wide NPS, but actually for a specific client, how you stack up against their satisfaction levels. So again, benefits, you can't do cool things with data or make interesting decisions if you don't have access to it. So make that easy. Make getting that data easy. The ability to use it to make better decisions, understand things like LTV to CAC, your internal method of tracking client satisfaction scores at the time of payment. Most firms probably aren't doing this at all and not in a uniform way. This is very powerful. And again, having access to that verified purchase data, really understanding things about payment efficiency and then making great decisions with that. So we've now talked about many different parts of AR management that you can innovate or where you should innovate, but to just repeat them in a way that's easy. They were dashboard, embedded payments, compliance, automated collections, and data and reporting. Those 5 areas are what you can get by making the switch to a better AR management system. And that is exactly why I am here today to talk to all of you, and thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody from the ALA. I, again, am Sarah, and I am the founder and CEO of HeadNote. Please email me, sarah@headnote.com or info@headnote if you want to learn more, set up a demo. I'd be happy to walk you through it. And now I'd love to answer a few questions.
Hey, great content, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time. I just want to remind our attendees that if you have any questions or great comments about Sarah's presentation, please put them in the chat and make sure you chat to all participants or all panelists. So, Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and open up our Q&A with a couple of questions that I actually have. So the first thing that I'd like to know is how difficult is it to start adding an AR solution to a firm's current tech stack?
That's a great question. So what we find with many of the firms that we get up and running on HeadNote is that it doesn't really matter what tools or what configuration of tools they're using prior to the invoice going out. HeadNote has integrations with numerous platforms. For those that we don't have direct integrations, we are totally able to pair with them, and we can show you how based on your current tech stack. Either way, most of that part between the invoice going out and payment is currently kind of an empty box. So we help check that box and with a tool that easily is compatible with the other parts of your existing stack, and that's going to be compatible with your accounting software. So it's reconciled on the back end. So if that's something that people have specific questions about, they can feel free to reach out to me. But if you choose the right tool, it's incredibly easy.
Okay, great. Sounds good. So is HeadNote compliant for ePayments to trust in all 50 states?
That's right. So we have engineered HeadNote from the ground up. It is compliant with all 50 states, the bar rules for how to transact online, as well as ABA, IOLTA, and EOLA. So again, it's made specifically for lawyers and law firms, so you don't have to worry about a company understanding your industry's issues and your rules and regulations.
Okay, so we've got a great question from Lynn. So is HeadNote compatible with Orion time and billing software?
Great question. Yes, it actually is, and be happy to show you exactly how, depending on how you have things set up and what your current process is like. But yes, and that is one that we actually have integration ongoing with as well.
Okay. Great. And Rebecca says, is HeadNote able to assist with AR follow-up for our e-billing clients? She just goes on to state, we're in about 12 different systems, and those seem to be the files we struggle with AR for the most.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that you're most likely referring to, larger corporate clients that have ERP systems or insurance defense clients who you're needing to get paid out through their systems. We have some solutions in place for some of those. We have many firms that use HeadNote to send their payment requests to some of those larger clients or those insurance companies to request payment that way. Some will pay that way, some won't. Again, if you want to reach out to me, Rebecca, I'd be happy to kind of talk through your specific problems and see if there's a way that we can assist.
All right. And again, Sarah's contact information is above on the slide and also in the chat. So just a real quick question about compatibility again. I think I saw one in reference to are we able to use this in Canada?
Oh, that is a great question. So we have a lot of requests from Canada. That's something we're actually working on at the moment. If the firm only has a Canadian bank account to accept money, then you can't use it today, though we wish that we could. If you have any U.S. offices or have a U.S. bank account, then we can. But again, please reach out to me and I'll add you to the wait list because this is something that we're actively working on and trying to get there to help service those Canadian customers ASAP.
Okay. All right. Great. So how does the client know if the payment should be going to the trust account versus the operating account when making payments online?
Great question. So the way that we have it set up, the best use case on HeadNote is that when you create that custom link, you actually are going to be setting up, which client is this for? What's the invoice number? What is the amount that's due? And what account do I want it to go to? Is this designated as operating or trust? You also at that time can set up multiple other things. What kind of payment options do you want to give? Credit card and e-check, just one or the other? Do I want to allow this particular client to opt into a payment plan? If so, what are the terms? Or set up recurring payments. So by setting up a custom link, you as the firm get to control all of that information, so you can decide exactly where is that supposed to go, and there's no room for error on the client side. If you're talking about a one link or that public payment page info where they click in and anybody can select whether it goes to trust or operating and the amount, the client, we have it labeled very clearly, and different firms want different language, whether this is for services rendered or a retainer payment, so that the client can make that choice. Some firms opt, if it is for that one link, that universal link that's not tied to a specific client, they'll opt to have all of those go to trust and then transfer those over to operating to make sure that there's never any mistake in trust funds going to operating on accident. But that's really kind of a firm-wide decision. Some just do custom links so they can control everything and they don't have any risk with the one link. That's really up to the firm how they want to do it. And again, I'm happy to talk through what would be the right solution for your firm based on your current setup and your desires.
Okay, great. We have some clients that we bill through third-party billing systems in which we have to upload a LEDS file. How would we track these invoices?
Great question. So for those, same as some others, when you go ahead and submit that invoice through that system, you would attach that payment link that once it gets clicked, it's going to automatically start tracking. Now, similar to Rebecca's question earlier, there's some organizations that are more amenable to accepting the head note payment link and having that work in conjunction with their internal ERP. Some are not. So again, if that's something, reach out to me directly and we can talk about the different organizations you're working with and see if this is something that could assist you with some of those clients.
All right, okay. We're almost at the top of the hour. We've got one more question that just popped up. What is the average time to set up or coordinate HeadNote with other firm accounting technology?
Great question. So it obviously, like any good lawyer, I'll say it depends, because I feel like that's what they taught us in law school. But in general, it's a matter of days. So we can usually get things going very quickly. If there is engineering resources that are needed, we have some of those resources that we can offer. So within a couple of days, at the longest kind of time frame, a couple of weeks.
All right, okay. Well, we are almost at the very top of the hour, but I've got one more question that I'd like to close us out with. How is HeadNote different from other e-payment providers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for one thing, if you're talking about a consumer payment platform, so again, the ones that we're familiar with when we shop online or pay money to a friend, right? Venmo, Square, Stripe, PayPal, et cetera. We're very different in that we are compliant for all of the needs of a law firm. We also are extremely user-friendly in the way that we allow the client to make a payment so they don't need to set up an account on HeadNote. Many of those payment platforms will make you set up an account to complete the payment. So that's when we were different. There are just a few other credit card processors for lawyers on the market. We're really different from all of those. Most importantly is that we're newer technology. So we have beautiful, payment technology that we've built in Silicon Valley. Those companies are mostly 10, 15, 20 years old. So we're talking older payment technology and less efficient. We have very transparent, reasonable fees, all flat fees. You know exactly what you're paying. It's 2.9 for credit cards, and really that's it. It doesn't matter, no third-party fees. So that's very different. And most importantly is that we're really an accounts receivable management tool, an automation tool. We're not just a processor. We are an AR management tool with embedded payments. So we give all that functionality, but we also give a lot more. And that's something that we're really proud of, to be moving the legal industry forward with how we're managing this part of our process.
All right, fantastic. Well, we are actually at the very top of the hour. Again, Sarah's information, her contact information is on the slide. I've placed it into the chat platform if you'd like to reach out to her. If you have any additional questions, she'd be more than happy to answer those questions for you. We'd like to thank Sarah for coming out and presenting to us, and we absolutely thank HeadNote, and we thank our attendees as well. Sarah, would you like to take a little bit of time to say anything else before we close it out today?
Just thank you all for your time. I know how valuable it is, and I really appreciate spending some time with you. So please reach out with any feedback, and thank you again to the ALA.
All right. Thank you very much. This actually concludes today's webcast. Thank you all for attending. We will have the recording available later today at legalmarketplace.alanet.org. We will send all registrants an email tomorrow with this link, and please visit our event calendar to sign up for future webcasts. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you all.